I'll be showing you how I use that system and I can spend $100 a month to send 13,000 text messages. What's up, everybody? This particular video is just a brief introduction to a multiple video series on how I use different software such as PropStream, Call Tools, REI Reply to go in any virtual market in under 15 minutes. And I'm just going to give you a brief introduction of what wholesaling is if you haven't watched any of my previous videos, and make sure you have an understanding before we get started. Now let's get into it. So now what I'm getting ready to do, I'm just going to explain the process of wholesaling real estate and how you would go into a virtual market. Of course, like I said, it's going to be a multiple video series on the different systems that I use to get it done, but I still want you to understand the whole process of it if you haven't seen any of my other videos. So basically, whenever you're going into a virtual market, you have to do market research. You have to see if the particular market that you're going in is a good market to even go in, if there's any flippers in the area, or if it's just any activity in the area that will be able to support us putting the property under contract and selling it to an end buyer. So basically, just to explain what wholesaling real estate is, it's when you go out, you market to potential sellers, and then when a seller responds and say, yes, I want to sell, what you would actually have to do, if a seller say, yes, I want to sell, you would have to send over a AB agreement, which is A, the seller, and B is the wholesaler. Once you agree to a price with the seller, you send over that AB agreement to the seller. The seller signs the document using a service such as DocuSign, and it will send the document back to you. Once the document is signed, then it'll be time for you to send the document to your real estate attorney or your title company. It really just depends on what state you're in. I recommend using a real estate attorney no matter what state you're in. And then the real estate attorney is going to start the process of opening escrow. What a real estate attorney is used for is to make sure that the property that you have under contract doesn't have any lien, doesn't have any taxes owed on the property, or just to make sure that the property is not in foreclosure or anything, even though you should know that yourself. But just in case the seller doesn't present that information to you, the attorney will be able to identify that and let you know, hey, this $15,000 on this property needs to be clear up before you move forward. So basically, they're just making sure that you're covered on your end and make sure that you will be delivered a clear title. Now, after the attorney has the property and they open escrow, your goal is to find an end buyer. So you'll be looking for cash buyers that will be able to close on the property in 30 days or less, or whatever time frame you have on your agreement. So then you will have an agreement between the B and the C, which, like I said before, the B is the wholesaler, which will be you, and the C will be the buyer who will be buying the property. So while the escrow process is going on, you will be getting pictures of the property for the buyer, which you can possibly get that through the seller, and you'll be marketing to cash buyers in that particular area. And I got a system that I use, which we're going to go into detail on in the next video. And you'll see how I pull buyers lists. You'll be seeing everything that I do in my business every time I go into a virtual market and I get a deal under contract. So once you pull a buyers list and you start marketing to these buyers, you can do multiple different things to get the buyer into the property. You can schedule a time with the seller to get all your buyers in. Or if it's a vacant property, you can put a lockbox on the property and get the buyers in one by one without you even being there. That's a question that I get all the time on how do you get your buyers in the virtual markets. And you can also get boots on the ground or another wholesaler that you can actually JV the deal with, and you guys split it 50-50, and they can handle the whole disposition process of the deal. So basically, once you find a buyer, the next step is to get that BC agreement signed by the buyer, and then you send that paperwork into the attorney, and you give the buyer 24 hours to get their non-refundable earnest money deposit in, so they won't have any reasons to try to back out of the deal. After you have that earnest money deposit in, then you know that you have a serious buyer in place. And if they don't perform, you get to keep that earnest money deposit. But if they do perform, once they submit that earnest money deposit, you'll be able to go ahead and schedule the closing date, and you will have your first deal, which hopefully it'll be $10,000. Now, just to give you an example of a wholesale deal and how you calculate what your offer would be, I'm gonna do that right now. Now, if you're enjoying this content so far, please hit the like button, subscribe, and click the notification bell so YouTube can continue to push this content out to more people that wanna learn the wholesale process. Now let's get back into it. So let's say that you have a seller that is interested in selling their property, and the property ARV, which stands for after repair value, is $200,000. What you would do as a wholesaler, you would use a rule that's known as the 70% rule. So you will multiply the ARV, which is 200,000, by 70%, and that will give you a number of $140,000. Then the seller tells you that, hey, the property just needs some cosmetic repairs. There's no major repairs needed on the property, such as foundational issues or termite damage. There's simple repairs need to be done, and you come up with a rough number of 30,000 that's needed to fix the property up and bring it to your ARV. So then if the property needs 30,000 in repair, you just subtract that 30,000 from the $140,000, and that'll leave you with a total of $110,000, which that is the price that you will be able to sell the property to the cash buyer. But it's not going to stop there. This is how we as the wholesaler will make our money. We will subtract another $10,000 from that, and that will be our max allowable offer, which would be $100,000. And you never want to start at your max allowable offer. So what you would do, you would subtract another 10% from that, and your actual starting offer to the seller will be $90,000. So what you will end up doing is starting at $90,000, but you will give yourself room to negotiate up to that $100,000 number, which will create your $10,000 spread. And from there, congratulations, you have your first wholesale deal, or you have a wholesale deal that you made $10,000 on. So as you can see, this process is very, very simple. Now, like I said at the beginning, the softwares that we'll be using PropStream in the next video, and I'll be going into deep detail about it. I'll be showing you how I pull my list out of PropStream, how I do research on my markets out of PropStream, how I pull my cash buyers list out of PropStream, and how I run comps inside of PropStream as well too. And then from there, I'll be going over to REI SIF and showing you how I use REI SIF in my business to make sure that I'm not skip tracing the same person twice or stacking my data to get multiple levels of motivation, and how REI SIF allows me to keep track of new vacant properties that come into the area. It's just a lot inside of REI SIF that I'm going to show you. Then I'm going to show you how I export that information out of REI SIF after it's skip trace, and it goes into call tools, which is a 10-line dialer, where I don't use the 10 lines, but I use around 3, 4, 5 lines, and I'll be showing you how I call my sellers on a daily and how I do it in the most efficient way. And then from there, I'll be showing you how I use REI Reply to send my ringless voicemails and my text messages to my sellers too, and how I do it at a cheap cost. I'll be showing you how I use that system, and I can spend $100 a month to send 13,000 text messages. So make sure you tune in and make sure you follow throughout the whole series. And if you have any questions about it, definitely feel free to leave a comment down below. And throughout the whole series, leave a comment down under any video. And I hope this series will be helpful for you. Now, in the meantime, check out my wholesaling playlist here, and I'll see you next time.